Now, on my angle tonight, I speak about two tales, about two tragedies in two separate counties, but both in one country, our country, Kenya. Now, over the last few days, the attention of the country has been focused on the one hand on the Mwingi tragedy, in which at least 32 people lost their lives after a bus that was ferrying them to a wedding plunged into a local river known as Ageyo. Now, across on the other side of the country, 8 miners were trapped in a place called Abimbo in the county of Siaya when the walls of their mine caved in, burying them underneath. But it's the response or lack thereof in Abimbo that I will focus on tonight. You see, immediately after the mine collapsed on December 2nd, local residents and fellow workers, miners those were, swung into action, as they say, using every crude tool they could lay their hands on. They saved 2 miners shortly after that. 5 others have since been rescued. 1 other has sadly lost his life, while 1 is still unaccounted for. But what has stood out the most is the painstaking wait for any form of meaningful help from any of the 2 levels of government. The rescue mission, which continues to date, has been hampered by a basic lack of specialized equipment to sort through the rubble and get to the remaining miner who's yet to be accounted for. Of course, one has to raise real questions about the disaster preparedness of the county government of Siaya if such a relatively minor accident can remain unresolved a whole week later. But even then, shouldn't this have been taken up by the national government already? The military, perhaps? Does anyone remember how the government deployed in full force in Likoni 2 years ago when a 35-year-old mother and her 4-year-old daughter plunged into the sea after their car slipped from a ferry ramp? In fact, so intense was the rescue effort that divers were brought in from as far as South Africa to boost local efforts. But not so in Abimbo. 7 days and counting, the relatives of the last miner who is yet to be saved continue to camp at the site, asking for more advanced equipment. The Siaya County government eventually sent in an excavator, but it was too little too late, and the rescue efforts that have so far saved 6 lives have largely been mounted by local residents using hose and spades to rescue their fellow miners. Now, the response seems to have been way better in the case of the Mwingi bus accident, which granted was horrific, causing the deaths of 32 people. There we saw the national and county governments rush to the site and make those familiar promises for change. But why, I ask, haven't we seen the same in Abimbo? Undoubtedly, the 2 incidents may not be identical, but a life is a life, and 1 life is just as important as 32 lives. You see, just like in Mwingi, the 1 death so far in Abimbo was needless because the government appears to have abdicated its role in some of these seemingly far-flung corners of the country. But the glaring difference in response between Mwingi and Abimbo would make one wonder whether the people of Abimbo are children of a lesser god. In Mwingi, we saw a PS, a CS, a county governor, and other leaders from Ukambani flock the site. How many of those kinds of leaders have we seen in Abimbo? Don't they have MCAs, local MPs, governor, all of these people? So whilst we are celebrating the miracle of the 6 miners being alive for up to 6 days underground, it is all thanks to the local residents who devised ways to keep them alive by connecting a pipe down to the collapsed mine to provide air to those trapped. Away from the slow response, the Abimbo scandal, because that is what it is now, also raises real questions about safety of such mines that are now popping up in many villages around Nyanza and western regions. In May this year, 5 miners died in a similar tragedy in Bushiangala in Kakamega County. Another 5 artisanal miners died in the same area. And we cannot blame the local residents for continuing to go to the mines that are unsafe, but rather the governments, both national and county, who are supposed to ensure mines are safe before being allowed to start operations. So tonight, our hearts must go to the people of Abimbo as they hold on to razor-thin hope that the one last miner who is yet to be pulled out will make it. But the Abimbo story will not be written without a big mark of shame on the foreheads of both the national and county governments that have left young Kenyan lives to languish under the rubble for up to 6 days, with one yet to be accounted for. A crying shame, I say. And that is my angle for the week.